Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, your boy Virtus here and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 4 SideScroller series. In today's video we are going to be continuing on with our cooldown system and we are going to be adding an animation to our cooldown. So as of right now we just have a little number in the top left hand corner that counts down from 5, 4, 3, 2 and goes all the way down to 0 when it's ready. If I go ahead and use this ability by collecting this little thing, if I press 1 now you can see it quickly fades out. And then it starts to come back, and then as soon as it's ready, you'll get a little piece of text above it saying it's ready, so the player knows they can use that ability again. We're going to be working with a load of awesome stuff. We've got the animation to set up and also a little bit of code as well. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it. So I'm going to quickly go over a quick overview of exactly how we've done this, and then we'll go and replicate it ourselves. So I've added an extra couple of bits into our heads up display. I've got a little bit of transparent text for ready, and then I'm just going to be changing the opacity of that text and adding it into an animation, which is quite simple. And as far as the animation is going, what I'm doing is every second I'm going to be running a check to see whether or not the player's countdown is set to 5, and if it is, what it's going to do is from there it's going to continue on and play that animation, and the animation lasts for 5 seconds, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see if we can replicate it all ourselves. So I'm just going to open up a fresh version of the SideScroller project and we can get started. Okay, so we're back inside of the game, and this time we have now just got the blank version where it just counts down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. So what we're going to do is start off by adding in the visual elements first so that we can link it up to all of the code later on in the video. So open up your heads up display widget, and there's a couple of things we've got to do in here. We've got to add the text that says ready, and we've also got to start working on the animation as well. The animation is probably going to be the bit that takes most of the time, as there's quite a few elements in there. So first things first, go ahead and drag a piece of text into your scene, and because it's the speed animation, the speed ability that we're doing all of this cooldown stuff on, I'm going to add this text in just above it. I'm going to change the color of this text as well so it's a little bit easier to see, and I'm going to make this like a nice bright orange sort of color so it grabs your attention. And I'm also going to make it a little bit smaller because I don't want it to be too big or too in your face. Once I've done that, I'm simply going to change the content, the text, to simply just ready, and I'm going to make sure that's all capitalized as I want it to be bold and I want people to be able to see it. Once I've done that, I'm just scaling it, and then I'm going to chuck it on top of this ability here. I think that might be a bit too small at the moment. I really do want it to be easy to see, as it's going to be a feedback element for the player. So I'm going to maybe change this up to something like 14. All you guys have got to do is just go ahead and adjust it for the size of your heads up display stuff. That looks good to me. Before I do go any further with the animation, what I do need to do is I need to click this, go to Appearance, Color and Opacity, and I need to set the default alpha in the opacity, color and opacity section down to 0. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want it to be transparent whenever the animation is not being played, because we don't want them to know it's ready all the time. It's just a quick little flash to let them know they're ready to use that ability. Once we've done that, we are going to go ahead and rename this text so that we know what it is when we're referencing it in the animation later on. So I'm simply going to change this to ready text. And then once I've done that, I'm also going to go ahead and change the name of this text here for the little countdown, and I'm going to call this speed CD text. And I'm also going to quickly put speed in front of the ready text here as well, because you might be wanting to put ready text for the other two abilities that you've got there as well. So it's going to be speed ready text, speed CD, and then also we're going to be doing a quick fade animation on the background image here as well. So once again, I'm going to put this as speed image. That way we can easily find what we need later on. So starting off, let's go ahead and add in a new animation. So press the little plus animation in the bottom left here, and then just give this the name speed cooldown for now. Once we've done that, click it, and then we've got to add a couple of elements into this animation. The speed image, the speed CD text, and also the ready text as well, which is just here. And all we're going to be doing now then with this animation is just going to be adding in a couple of fade on the color and opacity stuff just to make it flash and all that good stuff. So starting off with the background image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color and opacity track, and then from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it quickly go down to about down to 0 opacity or even 0.2 opacity over over half a second. It's going to be very quick and I don't want it to go so it's completely invisible. So I'm going to drag my little timeline thing over here and I'm going to move it to 0.5 seconds. At 0.5 seconds I want the opacity to have gone down all the way down to 0.2. So under color and opacity, just change that down to 0.2 and you are good there. And then what I'm going to do is, because the animation is 5 seconds long, what I want to do is make this 100% opaque over the remaining 4.5 seconds. So simply at 5 seconds, I'm going to set this opacity to 1. So if I go ahead and grab this here, go all the way back, press play, you can see it's now fading to full opacity over those 5 seconds. And that is exactly what I wanted for this image here. What I've got to do now then is go ahead and do the same thing for the cooldown text. So simply add another color and opacity track, and with this one, go and open that up. And once again, after about half a second, so if I go all the way to the beginning here, I'm going to add in my default stuff. So it's going to be 1 opacity at the beginning. And then after half a second, it's going to go down to 0.2 on the opacity. And then after that, because I've already got the keyframes over here, it's going to go all the way up to 1 and it's just going to fade in at the same time as our background image, and that is working exactly the way that we wanted it to. So next thing that we need to do is simply the ready text. So what we're going to do once again is add a color and opacity track. However, this time we're not sort of fading it from 0 seconds to 5 seconds. We just want a quick flash, when it's ready. So what we're going to do is color and opacity, go all the way down here, and we are going to go and add a little bit here at 4.5 seconds, and we're going to make sure the opacity is still set to 0. And once we've done that, we're just going to have it quickly flash here. So we're going to have it go to full opacity of 4.8 seconds. We do want the player to start to see this just before it is ready, so they do have time to fire off this ability. So opacity here is going to be 1, and then opacity at 5 seconds is going to be back down to 0. So if we watch this, if we just press play, it will fade on for a second and it will fade straight back out. If it's a bit too quick for you, you can always just drag these out. You can move it back a little bit, center this as well, play around with it, try and get the right speed. If you wanted to, guys, you can even do it over the 5 seconds if you want to. It's entirely up to you, but this is what I found works best for me. So we've got this little flash here. That looks great. So I'm going to drag my little keyframing tool here all the way back to 0 seconds, and I'm going to watch my animation and make sure it's all good. So if I press play, it starts to fade in. That is perfect, and then you get that quick flash there when it's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this, and I'm going to move into the graph, and we're going to set up the code for all of this now. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm in my event graph and not any of our bindings that we've got. And then from event tick, what we need to do is we need to make this check the cooldown every 1 second. So we're going to just put simply put a delay on there. There is better ways of doing this, but this is probably just the most simple way and the easiest way for you guys to follow along and understand with for now. So I'm going to set the duration to 1. And then from here, what we need to do is we actually need to cast to the SideScroller character, and we need to see when the cooldown is set to 5. So basically what this is going to do is 5 is going to be the value when the cooldown has just started, and if it's anything lower than that, it's simply not going to be fired off. And we want to start it just at the very start at 5 seconds because our animation is 5 seconds long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly cast to the SideScroller character. I'm going to set the object reference to get player character so we can get to it. Player character. And then as SideScroller character, we need to get a reference to the cooldown time. So if you just type that in, get speed countdown. So what we're doing here is simply running a quick branch to check whether or not the cooldown is equal to 5. If it is equal to 5, we're simply going to play the animation. If it's not, we're not going to do anything. So it doesn't mess with any of our script that we've got already. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got our branch here. And from this, if we just drag this out, and what we're trying to do is check to see whether or not the cooldown is equal to 5. And if it's equal to 5, we fire it off. So drag this in here. And then from true, we're simply going to drag this out and type in play animation and add that in there. Target itself, and that is all good. And then for the animation, we need to go over to our variables panel in the top left here, expand that, and then just grab our speed cooldown, get a reference to that, and then just hook it up there. Now, if you wanted to, you could play around with some of this stuff for now, but for me, this works perfect. We only want to loop it once. Play mode is forward, that's fine, and we want it at the normal speed. If we go ahead and compile this now, and then if we press play, hopefully we should see that everything's all working. So you can see here, at the moment, it's just constantly flashing. The reason why is I forgot to set the equal to integer to 5. So let me show you there. So we're doing this check, and I've accidentally left this at 5. Sometimes mistakes happen, and we've just got to make sure this is checking for 5 instead of 0. If we compile it now, and then press play, it's not going to be playing the animation from the start, that's all good. If I go ahead and pick up some fuel by picking up that little icon, and press 1 now, so you can see it started to fade out, it's still counting down, that is perfect, and then it says ready, and it goes down to 0, and that is good. And then you can use it again, and it's going to play the animation over and over and over. So that is pretty much everything for our cooldown ability animation. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. There's loads more content on the way. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, stay awesome, keep creating, your boy Virtus, signing out.